A holodeck by August, object storage, using the file system as the base engine for any catalog database system. Think of it like this. Whatever database or cat system you're using. So let's clear up what is a database, what is a cataloging system, what do you mean, what is an asset management system. So you've got your files. Probably anyone who's using computers at least has a ton of pictures they took. Probably also audio files, but more and more people moving that to streaming online, so I probably stick with the pictures. Every now and then you need to create a document, like a written paper thing of some sorts, or so yeah. So you've got your stuff, and the longer you use computers and the more stuff you do, the more stuff you accumulate, and then you have friends. I hope you have friends, and then they come over and they're like, hey, here's my stuff, and that you should see that stuff, and here's a copy of my stuff, or could I get a copy of your stuff? So you've got chain data accumulating and traveling and crossing between people, use cases, whatever. So yeah, those are so-called digital assets, and how do you manage them? Most people, personally, privately, don't. They somehow store it, and if they're like from the period of time of computing that I grew up with, they're like folders, file names, backup, hash codes later, and maybe a text file or a list, like here's some metadata about these, but that's like, let's be honest, that's a few people do that, but personally, not too common. And now you have companies, institutions, collectives, whatever, they work with files together, they collaborate, and they have a larger corpus of files over probably a larger time scale. And I work with memory institutions, and well, we collect stuff, and then you get collections from somewhere else, and then how do you merge them, how do you migrate them, and so on and so forth. So what if, with this suggestion of mine, since the metadata is on the file system level, any system that now keeps metadata for you to put it there and also use it, like your audio application, Clementine, Amarok, iTunes, even VLC, it has like a library function. What does it do? It takes metadata and it lets you like sort by artist or album or whatever. And there's also applications for images and other stuff, but very often they're media type specific, or if they're like, they don't care about which media types, like an object storage online, you're like, I put all my stuff in the cloud, I just tag that stuff, and I don't fucking care. Now that sounds a bit rude, but it's more like, yeah, quite pragmatic. So, but you'd have to put your stuff on cloud provider A's network, whatever, and then you can tag it using certain applications. Now actually those tags, I'm pretty sure they're written on that object storage level, so you could read them with different applications, but it's still an online thing, or at least a network storage thing, and it doesn't travel well. It's like, okay, which cloud provider do you have and which application set do you have? But yeah, it's getting better, so you can go from like one object storage to another and possibly copy over that metadata. But if it hits a local drive, or you don't have an object storage in your vicinity, like home or institution, you're basically losing that metadata again. And that's why it's still the default to have a cataloging system with its own database environment and whatever, with some references to files on a storage. Even if that points to an object storage, we're still pretty much it. Like, that metadata database system is referring to a folder file name location. Maybe already an ID, but it's still separate worlds. What I'm proposing is that for, I would say, most use cases that actually matter in daily lives, private as well as production and everything in between, is tagging files and annotating files and relating these files and metadata entries to each other. Like I said before, like creator, artist, album, collection, era, whatever. How you describe that stuff is up to you. So you want to have tags and relationships. Yeah. So whatever database system you now have, like if it's a photo sorting application, if that application in that object storage world would still use its own database layout to store anything, I'd seriously ask why. Like, why make stuff non-interoperable? There would be like, if you could put it in the file name and it would be perfectly sane to do so, why would you go the extra effort and do it differently? Performance. That's another session. But for the sake of that use case, imagine that the core of any application that deals with asset collection management of private to personal to large scale size, put it on the object storage file system level. And now I'm pretty sure you could very likely exchange these systems and still make them work, as now you'd have the file names if you if you migrate your data to another system. What you have is what's happening on the file system level. And if your file system level can contain the metadata, that really changes the game.